Hello and welcome back to Tab Travels. In a recent video, I shared with you an itinerary of how I saw all the major Rome landmarks within 24 hours. Europe can be a difficult vacation destination if you're on a budget, but it's definitely possible. In this video, I'll share my affordability hacks for visiting Europe in 2024. If you've been putting off this trip because of its big price tag, I hope this video encourages you to reimagine and plan your trip sooner rather than later. There are so many categories where you can cut costs and make this destination affordable for your price point. You may have to make some compromises, but I have found it to be totally worth it in the end. In case you're new here, I'm Tab and this is Tab Travels. Sometimes I like to take the road less traveled, but the beaten path can be quite pretty too. I'm a documentary filmmaker and I'm excited to bring you along on my journey. Let's go. First off, flights. The cost of air travel alone can dissuade many from ever crossing the Atlantic. These flights tend to be long and expensive, but once you're in Europe, there are several budget-friendly airlines that can make visiting multiple countries affordable. To get to any major European city from the US, I would wait for a good deal. Airlines are constantly offering low-cost flights. You just have to be willing to wait for those deals and be open to traveling off-peak season. I would recommend planning your trip in the spring or the fall if you want to find these good airline deals. Traveling off-season also means you're more likely to find better pricing in other categories. That brings me to my second point, accommodations. If you have any friends or family members abroad, asking for a favor and staying with them when you travel is one of the greatest ways to make visiting different cities affordable. If you don't have these connections and are open to making new ones, there are several free programs for couch surfing or house sitting that can also eliminate this expenditure from your budget. If both options don't suit you, a great option to consider are hostels. Though they may not be as comfortable as a traditional hotel, they are a fraction of the price. When you are visiting a city for the first time, you also want to spend most of your time out of the hotel anyway. There are ways you can make your hostel stay more affordable by upgrading to a single-gendered room or a private room. Private rooms can be a good option if you're looking for something slightly cheaper than a hotel and are traveling with one or two companions. Hostels are also great to consider because they are usually centrally located and close to public transportation. Affordable hotels are often out of the way and cost you more when you consider travel time and the associated cost of transportation. Hostels also tailor to the budget-friendly consumer and offer discount breakfasts and tours. One thing to keep in mind is hostels may charge a fee for towels and Wi-Fi. These accommodations are standard in most hotels. Paying these small fees for these concessions, however, still make hostels cheaper in the long run, but it is something to keep in mind when you're planning your trip. Now on to everyone's favorite category, food. While in Europe, I was surprised by the great quality of food I was able to get at a much lower rate than what I was accustomed to in the US. Food costs in the US have skyrocketed in the last few years, so it was a nice break to be able to afford amazing dining experiences without breaking the bank. You could certainly save some money here by going to grocery stores or grab-and-go establishments, but I do encourage you to make space for a few restaurant visits. It will add so much to your experience and won't cost as much money since tipping is not standard in Europe like it is in the US. I wanted to share a few things about planning your activities. One of my favorite things to do in Europe was just exploring the cities. I spent most of the day just walking around and didn't spend much on activities aside from a few boat tours and museum visits. If you're more interested in guided tours, there's a company called Walking Guru that employs local guides to give educational tours around many iconic European cities. I really enjoyed these tours, which are free, though they do request a small donation at the end of the tour, which is pay what you can. Many museums and chapels require entrance fees, but not all of them. I visited a number of famous sites that had no entry fee. Bookstores and markets were also enjoyable destinations I visited for free. If you're interested in supporting these vendors, you can always purchase something, but there's no pressure to do so. If none of these compromises are ideal for your next trip, you can also consider visiting less popular destinations in Europe. Some less traveled countries like Portugal or Poland are much more affordable since they are not the top destinations for most tourists. There are a lot of amazing sights in these countries as well, and the cost of accommodation and food is much more affordable. Similarly, some cities within countries are cheaper than others. When I was visiting Barcelona, I found a lot of the food and accommodations to be much higher priced than when I was visiting Madrid. Doing a little bit of research into what cities have to offer can turn into a wonderful adventure you weren't expecting. This concludes my video about traveling to Europe on a budget. I hope this video has encouraged you to take that leap and start planning your next vacation, no matter your price point. There is so much you can gain by taking these trips. They don't have to be perfect, you don't have to stay at the fancy resorts or visit the best restaurants to have a great time in these places. If you enjoyed this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel. This supports my work on here. If you have any specific questions I didn't address, please feel free to leave a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for stopping by.